All right, hey everybody, back with the first video in some time. Maybe a little bit overdue. I know we were talking. There's some reply threads in another video about doing a Shadow Knight video. We got a request to do it, so I figured I'll dust off some stuff and make another video. I know there's also some anniversary missions. I think newer ones for this year due out soon. I don't know. I think I saw that somewhere. So I might have some videos on those as well. But I don't know. We'll see. Anniversary missions are usually, intentionally just easy, just kind of free loot. So maybe not. If there's anything that's actually difficult, we'll get to it. But anyways, we'll talk a little bit about the Shadow Knight here. So your Shadow Knight is, if you're playing a Shadow Knight, it's likely your main driving tune. So there really isn't a whole lot going on because you're manually controlling it. You're not relying on needing to simplify stuff into hotbars. But you likely will have something on a spam bar. So what I put together here is just basically kind of like what I would call like this, the idiot-proof main tank spam bar here. So we'll talk in the video, like this is going to be changed around. You likely will be changing this around quite a bit depending on the situation. I'm constantly moving spells in and out of this, and abilities and things like that depending on the situation. But I think this is just 101 basic entry level. Like if you need to switch to another tune and want to make sure that your tank is just main spamming all the aggro as possible so there's no risk of him losing, like this is it right here, just dummy proof aggro. So yeah, with that, if you haven't already paused a couple minutes in to save this, take a look at it, I'm going to do that now, and we'll get into actually just some discussions on some of the individual abilities and situations that'll change it up. So into the spells themselves, and let me kind of make this a little bit bigger so it's maybe a little bit better to see and unlock it and drag it up here. So first up is going to be your terror spell. So this is just the straight, virtually no mana, instant cast, big hit of aggro. So realistically, if you're just playing a Shadow Knight just as your main, you're probably not really utilizing the spell this much. As long as you're geared up correctly and have the good spell lineup and everything like that, like it's going to be generating more than enough aggro to keep anything on you. You shouldn't really have too much trouble as a Shadow Knight. But again, just to keep things super simple, since this is basically not going to even touch your mana pool, is instant cast. It really doesn't have that much of an impact. So this just keeps things really easy just to just maximize aggro as much as possible. I'll pop this in and keep this in there sometimes as well if I got like my Beast Lord up and I want to do some extra DPS and swap in some of his aggro abilities, because they've got a couple of combat abilities that do more DPS but also generate aggro, so they can start to fight a little bit. So sometimes I'll swap that in there in those situations, or if you just know you're going to play with somebody else who happens to be top tier DPS or just doesn't know how to control their aggro and is always pulling from you, you can pull that in and out just to kind of add it, but not a total necessary there. One thing that I'll usually have in there and kind of swap out more often than not is something like the Explosion of Hatred right here, which is just your targeted AE aggro. So it'll do 8 opponents within a small radius around your target. So I'll just spam that off as much as possible, because usually in group content I'm fighting multiple mobs at once, so I want AE aggro over single target. Next couple of things here are just into the taps, and order of operations is a little bit important here just because of recasts on them. So Reciprocal Fang excuse me, is your progression. So that's the biggest one on the longest recast. And then you've got your Dire, which is the second biggest one on the second longest. And then Spear and the Touch spells here. So the Touch one here has got like almost no recast to it, just regular global cooldown. So you want that at the end there, otherwise it will constantly just recast itself and not get to the Spear spell. So definitely make sure you kind of got those in order there as well. And it is quite a bit of spells, but the kind of way the Shadow Knight works is all their weapons and stuff like that. Right here, like on a, they all have like 37 delays, and where's the the one-hander that got in there, 35 delay. So they're all on like intentionally slow delays, so you don't lose a lot of DPS being stuck into casting a lot. So that's why it's okay just to be massively spamming through stuff there. It's not going to really affect your melee DPS, and generally speaking, Shadow Knights aren't DPS classes. But if you get geared up well enough, they easily can hold million DPS and outperform some people who may be a little bit subpar on gear or skills and rotations. But anyways, back to it. So those 5 there are like the main spells that you'll want to go through. Into some of the other abilities there. So Incapacitating Blades is the combat ability. Like it's been 2 decades where every single expansion, every single 5 levels, there's been an update to this. That's just 2 melee swings on a minute recast there. So nice one just to make sure it's always popping off. Veil of Darkness is a really nice aggro ability. It's on a longer recast, 5 minutes. But in addition to the aggro, what it does is for a 1 minute, it's going to put a debuff on that reduces accuracy by 75%. So I like to make sure I'm spamming that off as much as possible. But if there are some situations in group missions or potentially getting ready for a name or something like that, you might want to pull that off so you know it's ready and not on cooldown when you want to specifically debuff one single target. So another one that I'll pull in and out of there if I am, again, just like main or just burning a lesson and just swarming crap. This is one that I'll pull off, and I'll pop in another one of the AE like explosions or streams just for more AE aggro, just spammed off whenever possible. The Gird is a really awesome combat ability to make sure that you're always spamming off. So it has a 15-second recast, and what it's going to do is it's going to put a rune on you that's going to absorb the first 113,000 damage, basically, spell or melee attack. So every 15 seconds, going to absorb over 100k damage. So 100k isn't too much these days. It's basically one swing of even just trash mobs. But being able to refresh that every 15 seconds is going to mean quite a bit of damage, even on just a group, regular old zone trash mob. Being able to hit that off, 4 times in a single minute. The other really nice thing about that is the synergy. So as long as you got synergy maxed out, it is going to turn your Gird into also a group rune. So it's not as much damage, just 24,000 damage. But every 15 seconds, putting a 24,000 damage shield on your group is a nice little boost. And over the long run is going to actually make a decent difference for them, especially in TOB where there is a lot of lingering AE effects and AE dots and things like that. So that is going to be a must in any kind of spam bar. Bite of Chaos is the AA ability. There's also the spell ability, the Chakra's Bite. So I will put Chakra's Bite into this bar as well, kind of just depending on the makeup of the group. If I'm playing just some of my casters, like magicians and stuff like that, that will drain their mana a little bit quicker, I'll keep this bite in there, like in the place of maybe one of the touches or in place of the veil or something like that, just to make sure that is going off as well along with the bites, because what they do is they do a little bit of damage, but then do a group mana tap and life tap. So not a whole lot here, just a couple thousand. It crits and does a little bit more as long as you got the AAs. But I have definitely, and you will definitely notice a difference. Just spamming that off will keep mana from draining too quickly on caster heavy people such as magicians or wizards or beast lords could definitely be there, rangers, etc., etc. Taunt is one of the ones that I normally don't always have in there because you don't necessarily need it again. You're going to be doing enough aggro with everything else. But again, just keeping this like dummy proof. Just that'll always do that because this doesn't generate any aggro, but it always just makes sure that the mob will go right back to you if need be. So I think that's typically usually where I'll swap in the bite spell into that there. Pet, if you've got a pet up, I like to keep this here, so it always makes sure that my pet is attacking whatever I'm on, so it's always spammed in there. You can include it in like your main attack macro here, so attack on and then pet attack and such. But because I'm sometimes switching targets or the swarm pets, the chattering bone ability there that summons those 3 or 4 pets over a long period of time. This will make sure, like, if one mob dies, that, like, as long as I got the swarm there, as soon as I start clicking on the next mob, it makes sure that those pets will just switch target and not just sit there and do nothing. So another one, like, I'll sometimes pull out if I know I'm just not utilizing that, so I can add in some more, like, AE stuff into the spamming. And then the Bane, the 2B thing. So, again, not always to necessarily have in there. I think everybody's probably got audio triggers at this point if you don't already, especially for raiding. That will tell you to refresh your Bane, so you don't necessarily need to spam this off because it only needs to be clicked once every 15 minutes. But just for the sake of it, I've got that in there, so it'll keep it on there. But another one you can easily pull off and add in depending on the situation, like your bite spell or another AE aggro kind of thing there. But yeah, that's the gist of, like, what I spam there. I don't have any other real hotbars except for some numbar stuff here because, again, broken record, like, this is my main character. Like, I need to have a lot more stuff that I manually click. So even if I come into here to my keys down here, like, I don't have anything set up here because I've got, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 hotbars up just for individual clicking stuff. All the defensives, all the bandolier item clicks and things like that that are necessary to have at the ready that I don't want on a spam thing there. So I don't have that there. But if you just had, like, a box SK that you're not playing a ton, you could, like, adjust some things here. So, like, you could put burn stuff into, like, a burn bar where you don't necessarily need it. I guess you probably could set up a bar with defensive so that you click and it pops off one defensive and then click again. But again, I'm hitting what I need when I need it, basically, on a manual basis because I'm in this tune 95% of the time. But if you do need to, pop over to, like, another tune, or say, like, a bard, and start pulling. You could run off with your... I'm going to put him on here. I could run off here and just start tapping 2 while I'm pulling something or doing something over here or mezzing, and he will continue to keep doing all the stuff here, going through that even in another window. So it's good to have one set up always so that he's always doing his thing. I guess we'll talk a little bit about the number bar. So where's that at here? So there we go. The way I do have my numpad, I should say not a numbar, numpad set up is the first 4 ones are lined up to dots. So I think I got them all memmed in here. Now I've got all 4 dots memmed up here, but usually, depending on the situation, like, there's just no need to cast the dots in group situations. So I'll have other stuff memmed up in there. So I'm not always using that, but this gives me the ability that, like, I can just, hit numpad 1, numpad 2, numpad 3, and 4, etc. And it's also lined up on my Beast Lord that's got some dots in there. Shaman's got some dots in there. Rangers, Druids. This helps if you potentially box a Necro. You could utilize that a little bit there. So I've got that set up. And then a couple other things, I guess, just because they're here in case someone asks. So 5, 6, 7, and 8 I just have as open. So I just move stuff in and out of there as need be. So I haven't done too much of what I've needed to, but I think last time I did, I was doing the Spider Queen mission there, and Lorian's in. So what I would do in that situation is I would, like, put to num 6 a hotkey for everybody to, target the egg. So, like, for my magicians and things like that, and then the pull the pet back hotkey there. So I would just hit num 6 and everybody would send their pets onto the queen type of a thing there. And then I think this here is usually where I've got let me load up a different set here. That's my, so if I'm raiding and stuff like that, where, I want to actually start utilizing the Coverance spell there, the Shadow Knight's sort of synergy spell there, like, I'll have it in there, so that's just another spell that is over there, because every so often I'll then pop that in place of that kind of a thing there, so that I could spam that off, or it's ready to click at the as I need be. And then I guess only other thing here, like looking at the main bar here, like again, like there's nothing going on in any of this stuff here. This is just my key, so I just remember, oh, this button does this button does that. But the buffs, I did got a couple of things here. I'm just going to go through and just cast the stance, which is the big short duration HP buff. The skin here, which is the one that helps absorb some random hits for, I think, the next 40 hits or something like that. And then the disruption here, this is the one that whenever you're hit, you have a chance to do AE, do a small radius AE taunt. So just some extra aggro there. So whenever I need to just refresh buffs, I'll hit that and refresh those. But also similarly, like I'll usually just be paying attention here and notice like, oh, that's fading. Let me just click that here, mid-fight kind of a deal. But yeah, that's basically it. That should get like a Shadow Knight basically running. Again, there's not a whole lot to it, because this is going to be the tune that you're in most of the time. So this is what you're going to be more manually controlling. So if you got any other questions, or maybe want some better detail on disciplines and things like that, if you're fresh to an SK, hit me up, drop a comment. I'll be glad to help out.